Good morning, folks. This is Mr. Walker here, coming at you with your next bit of notes. Now, this is for the second part of our factoring notes, factoring part 2. We're going to be going over both sides of this in tandem. So we're going to go over the left side of the page, then the right side, okay? So let's take a look over here at the right. Sorry, left. I'll probably go in a little more. All right, so this side specifically is factoring polynomials when they look like this. Now, things to know about this. This is when the degree is 2, meaning that this has a highest exponent of 2. This also is only when you have 3 terms. So you have one term that is squared, something times x, and something without an x. And the coefficient of our square term is 1. So these 3 things need to be met in order to use this factoring method. Okay, let's go take a look. So below there are 5 steps. Feel free to pause them if I do go through too quickly. So first step, we are going to draw the parentheses of our answer and we are going to fill in the variable. So whatever variable you see inside of your expression, whether it's x, y, k, whatever, you're going to put those into the variable. You're going to see it when we go through the steps down there. Now to the side, we're going to work out what multiplies to c, our number in the back, but adds to b, our number here in the middle. Now, you're going to check the signs of these factors and see what works out for your addition, multiplication, so that everything works out to give you your expression. And then you can use the box method to undo the multiplication and place your factors in the parentheses. And then finally, always check your work, okay? So, since we're going to be using the box method to do this, it's going to kind of end up, coming into us more or less checking our work. So let's take a look at what we got. Here is our expression. We got x squared plus 5x plus 6. So we got 3 terms here. The highest exponent is 2, and the coefficient of the squared term is 1. So if you don't see anything written in front of x squared, that means its coefficient is 1. All right, first step, write up your parentheses, and we're going to fill in the variable. So at the front of both of these parentheses that I'm about to write, I have an x. This x and this x are what makes up our x squared, and also will give us the coefficient right here. So that's our first part. We're going to fill in the variable, and we are going to now start looking for a couple things in specific. So I am looking for what multiplies to 6 but adds to positive 5. So what multiplies to positive 6 but adds to positive 5? Now there's a lot of different factors that we know that multiply to 6. We know 2 times 3 works, and we know 1 times 6 works. Now, only 2 of those add up to 5. If you add 1 and 6, that gives you 7, but if you add 2 and 3, you end up with 5. So our factors for this are 2 and 3. Now, just to make sure that we have this correct, we're going to go through and undo the multiplication that we get in the box method. So here's our box. I'm going to set this up. We got 2 rows, 2 columns, and now we're going to plug in the information we know from here inside of this. So, we obviously know x squared and 6 we get from multiplication using the box method. So top in the left, we're going to put this x squared, and in the bottom right, we're going to put that 6. Now, 5 is made up when we add 2 and 3, so these two are going to have x's attached to them. So I have over here, I'm going to just put 2x, and the other box, 3x. For this particular case, it does not necessarily matter which order you put them in. When you factor everything out, you will get the correct answer. So now that I got everything in here, I know that all the things inside of this box are a result of multiplication. So what I'm going to do is undo that multiplication by factoring out our greatest common factor. So let's look at our GCFs for these things. All right. So looking at x squared and 3x, that's what we're going to look at first. Both of these have one common factor. This has an x, this also has an x. This has a coefficient of 1, but this coefficient is 3. So looking at their coefficients, 1 is their GCF, and looking at their variables, x will be their GCF for the variables. So we got 1x over here. Now if I look at 2x squared and x squared, 2x and x squared, these both have the same GCF because their GCF for the coefficients is 1, and our variables would be x. So all this right now makes sense. We got x times x gives us x squared. Now let's go through the other two parts. So the GCFs of 3x and 6. Since 6 does not have an x, that means that this answer that we're going to get here will not have an x. So now I'm looking at what 3 and 6 has in terms of a GCF. So you can divide 3 and 6 both by 3. And this works out well. And if you continue looking at how everything works out in the box method, I know x times 3 gives me 3x here. So now I got my last thing here. I got 2x and 6. Just like how these two have no GCF with an x involved, these two won't have a GCF with an x involved. So you can divide 2 and 6 both by 2. So now we have our four factors that multiply to give us this expression here. We got 1x, 2, 1x, and 3. So in our answer, we are going to take our two new factors that we know because we already got x and x. We just need to put in 2 and 3. In one of the parentheses, you're going to put plus 2. In your other parenthesis now, you're going to put plus 3. And that right there is our final answer. So if you went through and checked your work, you would multiply both of these out to give you this. Now, technically, by doing the box method here, we are actively checking our work. So I'm actively seeing x times x is that. I can also see that x times 3 gives me 3x, and x times 2 is 2x, and 2 and 3 give us that, and we know these are alike, giving us this 5. So that is a quick way for us to do this. Now, we're going to take a look at the right side of this page as well because it kind of works hand in hand with this. So let's take a look at this right side. All right, so up top we got factoring polynomials when the degree is 2, the number of terms is 3, and the coefficient of our squared term this time has to be greater than 1. So you notice compared to what we had before, was x squared in the front. This time, though, we have ax squared plus bx plus c. So similar equation, just now we have a coefficient with x squared. All right, now the steps for this, there's a little less steps than we had for the previous one, but we're still going to go through and use the steps from that previous method. So let's scroll down, let's look. All right, first step, we are going to take the coefficient of the square term and multiply it with the constant. So we're multiplying what's in front of x squared times c, what's in the back. And just like the last one, the only difference is instead of asking what multiplies to c but adds to b, we're going to ask what multiplies to this a times c but adds to b. And then we're going to follow the same process with the box method and undo our multiplication. So same process that we did before. This time, though, we are going to be doing a little more work when we deal with this part, okay? So here's what we got. In this expression here, we got 2x squared minus 3x minus 9. Sorry, plus 3x minus 9. So first off, we're going to set up our parentheses. We're not going to fill in anything yet because unlike our last one, we don't just have x squared. So these two terms here in the front are not necessarily going to be just x. One of them has to give us this multiplication to give us 2x squared. So let's go through and take a look. First, you're going to want to take a, which is 2, and multiply it times -9. So up top, we are going to deal with what is 2 times -9. And we're asking what equals this product, but adds up to a +3. So, sorry, 2 times -9, we know is -18. All right, so now we're asking us what multiplies to -18 but adds to 3. Now, since we're multiplying to a negative number, this means one of them is positive and the other one is negative. So we got a negative number and a positive number. Now multiply to 18, but add up to this 3 here. One thing you can tell is if this middle term here is positive, that means that the bigger thing here is going to be positive, and the smaller one is going to be negative, okay? So there's a lot of things that work. We got 2 and 9, obviously, like we see here. We also are going to see 1 and -18 we could do. We could also do 3 and 6. Now, if we do 3 and 6, we can put that +6, since it's the bigger of the two, as our positive number, and the negative as our 3. So -3 times 6, -18. -3 plus 6, +3. All right, next step that we got our different expressions all here, okay? So we're going to go through and plug this into the box method and do some factoring. So over here we have 2x squared from the front. In the bottom right, we got that -9. Now this -3 and this 6, these are the things that come together to give us 3x. So in one of the boxes, -3x. In the other box, 6x. All right, so looking at the GCFs for these, let's go through and get them. -3 and 9, their GCF happens to be a -3. That's because both of these have a negative in common, and both of these are divisible by 3. So that makes it -3. Now, over here, 6 and -9 have a GCF of +3. Now, I know that this works right now because -3 times +3 gives me -9. So we're good there. Now we can go through and do the rest of our multiplication. Now, -3 and, -3x and 2x squared have a GCF of x. And 2x squared and 6x have a GCF of 2x, because they're both divisible by 2 and they both got an x. Now, if you check your multiplication with the factors on the front and the side, you notice everything works out. X times -3, -3x. 2x times 3, 6x. X times 2x, bong. And 3 times -3 also works. Now, your final answer for this will be, in one parenthesis, we're just going to put x plus 3. In the other one, we have 2x minus 3. And now we're all finished. So all this kind of lends to doing the GCF. If you're good with doing the GCF, you're good with a lot of the other factoring methods. So take some time to practice this and make sure you get this all written down. Peace out, y'all. See you on the next video.